I want to get to Hassan, who's calling in not from Venice, Italy, but Venice, California. Hassan, what's going on?
Nothing much. How y'all doing today? Something.
Today, we're doing just fine. Doing great.
Well, great. That's what's up.
So what's up, Hassan? How can we help?
Well, I posed a question to the screener, and because of what I do, I get into a lot of debates with both atheists and theists alike. So I was wondering, what's your insights on cognitive dissonance? Because that's normally the way that we normally say that, the other person is off by their cognitive dissonance. So what's a good way to recognize it in the other person during the debate so you can point it out, rather than having a constant back and forth that almost becomes I know you are, but what am I? Or vice versa. What will be some things to recognize it in yourself so that you'll stop debating when you've been bested by a better argument?
Yeah, I don't know about it specifically in a debate context, but I'll tell you a strategy I've used that seems to be kind of congenial for people. So if I'm hearing something and I'm thinking there's some cognitive dissonance there in what I'm seeing in somebody's belief, I always frame their beliefs into the context of how I could believe something. So for example, if somebody said, I believe in an afterlife, but I also believe in reincarnation. I think, maybe they start talking about heaven, but then they also say, we reincarnate on earth for something. That's something I've heard before. And so the way I do it as a rephrase, I'll just be like, that's really interesting. It would be hard for me to believe in an afterlife, but also believe in reincarnation. How would you exactly square those two beliefs? How do you get from point A to point B? And so when I'm doing that, I'm not saying that necessarily their idea doesn't make sense or that they have cognitive dissonance, right? Maybe there's an explanation there that I'm just not aware of. Instead, I'm giving them the chance to kind of explain or even rationalize how they believe something. And if that rationalization makes sense, then that's a true belief, or at least, maybe there's some truth to it, and that could kind of follow the logic there. If not, maybe people haven't thought about it, and it gives them a chance to kind of consider that. If you watch my video with Anthony Magnavosco, I think Anthony kind of did something of that with me when I talked about the non-overlapping magisteria argument. I was basically saying science and religion, they don't really go together. And then I can't remember exactly what he said, but I think there was something like that. Zod, what is your spicy hot take on this question?
I think it's good. I think you're way better off between the two thinking about your own cognitive dissonance and trying to understand that, because it is a very personal and internal process. And I think you need to be constantly thinking through. This is one of the biggest reasons I came out of, one of the biggest things that prompted me to come out of religion was understanding my own cognitive dissonance and seeing all the little wheels turning up there and recognizing where I was trying to use certain apologetics or dismiss certain doubts or whatever. That's one of the things that drove me toward lack of belief. So I think it's always good to be thinking about your own. I don't know if this is what you're saying, but I would never go to the point of pointing it out in other people, because that becomes, that it's a little presumptuous in most cases, because we don't know when people are really experiencing it. And even if we suspect it, pointing it out comes off as an accusation or a rhetorical tool to just say, you're wrong because you're experiencing X, Y, Z. You're even if I sympathize with you, you're having misperceptions. Your argument's foundation is built on this empty thing. Let me instruct you on why. And that's never going to come off well. And especially with cognitive.
I really didn't. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, and I don't know if that's what you meant to say, but I guess if I were to.
No, I was going to say. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll clarify one thing real quick, and then if you have something to say, I would just say cognitive dissonance is. I think that's at a point where someone is experiencing very difficult things. They're at a really tense point in their understanding of whatever topic you're talking about. And that's one of the most important places to ease them into an idea. They're already feeling tension over something. And in my experience, a believer will often project that tension onto you. It's a very unpleasant feeling when you're a believer. And it takes very little for
Right.
an atheist to say to exacerbate that. So I would just say, try to help them reconcile the things and ease that into position versus trying to quickly force it. And pointing out their cognitive dissonance is really forcing it. So anyway, sorry, I might have misunderstood what you're saying, but go ahead and continue.
I think you slightly misunderstood, but the end kind of summed it up pretty well, because I think that was Dan that spoke at first. The whole thing is I want to avoid any type of attack because people get defensive. So the idea is maybe when you see that their argument is showing the dissonance or whatever, or their actions are displaying the dissonance, you let them know that, hey, these are facts, or these are the information you're dealing with is not personal. It's not anything between you and I, to keep it out of the personal bickering back and forth, which was like what I
you still got to be careful
initiated.
Because you have to make sure that that person agrees with your facts first before you say, yeah, this is a fact, because one person's facts may not be another person's facts. And I'm not saying that in an objective sense. I'm saying that in the subjective sense, people are going to interpret facts differently. And so you got to make sure you're working with the same pieces, right?
And when someone's experiencing cognitive dissonance, that's a time when they're very easily going to feel condescended to if you say things the wrong way. And so it's very important. To me, I take it as a sign that you need to, that's a little bit of a hot zone in the conversation. You need to step back from it and ease your way toward it without patronizing them, without pushing too far, and without weaponizing that idea. I think that's an indication that they're at a place where they're in legitimate distress over an idea, and you need to kind of help guide them just a little closer to it if you can, and plant seeds that they can think about and gently, at their own pace, come to grips with it later on. But it's definitely not a place to, and I know this isn't necessarily what you're saying, but it's definitely not a place to push and become aggressive, because as a believer who experienced a lot of cognitive dissonance, and I'm not accusing all other believers of this, but for me, I very easily took offense at and felt condescended to by things that were just people just starting to approach an idea that was very tense in my mind. So I would just say use a lot of caution.
I did too. But Hassan, thanks for calling in to Truth Wanted tonight. Appreciate your call, and everybody who called in tonight.